Aloha, everybody. Thank you, Roshan. Uh, Aloha, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here with us today. I hope your day is going well so far, and the previous presentations are awesome. Lots of information to consider and to think about in making your farm and your operation more sustainable. My presentation is going to focus on the banana micropropagation and also the prevention and control of the banana bunchy top virus. I would like to acknowledge my co-authors, lots of people involved in this project, helping us to be able to help the local banana production in the state. So can you see the slides moving? Yes. Awesome, thank you. This is the picture, the first one, the first slide here is showing what's the micropropagation of bananas. Now, micropropagation, as Roshan, Emily, I believe maybe even James actually mentioned it, technically taking the keikis, that could be considered micropropagation. Or taking the corm of the bananas, put it in certain medias, and then you're going to start having all those small young plants. You take them with little bit of roots, and that's also considered micropropagation. Micropropagation is different. What we do is we usually go with this method as a micropropagation. We go for this when we have limited materials. That's one. Like, for example, I have this one variety of bananas, but I don't have only a couple of plants. I cannot wait for 9 months to get maybe 2 or 3 keikis from it. And I want to have a large number so I can expand my collection of this variety very quickly. That's one reason. Second is usually with micropropagation, you get all the plants that you come from the micropropagation are very similar to the mother plant that you used to produce them from. Third, if you make sure that the mother plant that you start with is clean of diseases, you are going to expect all the plants that you get from that one mother plant also all clean from diseases. Third or fourth, actually, you can get also large number of materials from one single plant. Like usually with the banana, from one corm of banana, we get up to 500 plants. So that's a very good number. Yes, but keep in your mind, it's expensive and it takes time. But then we do it because we want to make sure everything is as the mother, everything is clean, which is very hard to do from a macropropagation method. Third, we wanted to be able to have it and we distribute it much faster instead of waiting for a long time to get this that number of plants that we want to revitalize and to help the statewide banana growers in Hawaii. So what we did is we took a couple of plants from the apple banana, the dwarf Brazilian one. We tested them for the bunchy top. We made sure they don't have bunchy top. Also, we made sure when we took the plants out, we don't have any issues with them. For example, root knot nematode. If we have, as Emily and Roshan were mentioning, how can you take care of it? After we tested them, and this is the testing kit. Well, so we take portion of the leaves and we mix it with some chemicals, and then it's like the same those strips that you get for the COVID-19 test, like the antibodies ones. So it's almost the same, similar, and then it's gonna tell you if it is negative or positive. We make sure that the plants are clean. Then that one corm or multiple ones, we put them in a solution for about 6 months. After that, they take small pieces from that corms, put them in a media called agar, which is technically starch. Over time, that one small piece of the corm is going to start having roots and shoots, and then you end up with some plants. That's what we end up with. That's usually what we get. Very tiny, small plant with little bit of roots, sometimes even no roots. Then what we do after that, that's usually what we receive. Those pictures here, that's what we receive. we pot them, and usually those plants, when they come at the beginning, they don't even have wax on the leaves. So we put them and then we cover them with a plastic sheet to make sure that the humidity around them is very high so they don't stress out for about 2 to maybe a month, 2 weeks to a month. And then after that, we start exposing them more to the sun and light and other chemicals. And also we put like fertilizer and stuff. This way we harden them to make sure we put them in a greenhouse or greenhouse so they get more exposed to sun and light, fertilizer, some winds maybe even, to make sure that they are in good size, and then we move them out into the field. If you look into the leaves, they have this red dots. That's a very typical expression when you have the plants being produced from tissue culture. But those red dots, usually they vanish and disappear over time. When the plants are larger, you don't see any more those red dots. But usually they are good expression when the plant's been produced from tissue culture. Now we're going to talk about the banana bunchy top virus. And Roshan mentioned it. I believe Emily did also with the IPM kind of. And in fact, even James was talking about it when he was talking about the winds, windbreakers. Windbreakers, I definitely don't recommend using the bananas for windbreakers because mainly the leaves gets very shredded. And also usually we tend to forget about the windbreakers. We plant them there and we leave them there. And as long as they are just stopping the winds, we forget about them. We don't usually even fertilize them, usually, the windbreakers. And when you have a banana bunchy top issues and you put those plants and you forget about them because they are just windbreakers, they can become a source of infection. When the leaves are all shredded out and stuff, that's also bad because they don't do the photosynthesis well. So I don't recommend using bananas as a windbreakers. Now, when you have a bunchy top virus, how do you determine that plant is infected? The symptoms are actually very clear in a way. The first one is that the leaves become kind of thin and tall instead of the typical wide at the middle leaf of banana. Also, they become wavy. You can tell the leaves are wavy. They have this kind of dark and light colors of strips that coming through the plant leaf. Those also a good indication of the banana bunchy top virus. The plant, because it's the virus infected, they stunt. They don't grow tall as the other typical normal plants and infected plants. So usually the leaves become very close to each other and they form kind of a flower shape. That's a very good also indicator that it's a bunchy top virus. Where if you look from the top on the plant, it's like a flower leaves. They are close to each other. They are wavy. They have this kind of a dark and light green color within the leaves. Those are very indicator symptoms of the banana bunchy top virus. If you have it, you do not wait for the plant. Oh, I'm gonna just wait. That I have a plant that's already kind of closer to maturity. I'm gonna just wait to harvest it. Technically, you can if it is very close to maturity, but as soon as possible, get the entire mat out. You do not wait for, oh, I have a plant that's still kind of I would say 6 months, 5 months. No. Get it out, because this plant will become a good source of infection and they will spread out very quickly. Also, you don't want to, if you don't see the symptoms on the keikis, you see that, for example, you start seeing the symptoms on the mother and you don't see the symptoms on the keikis. Oh, I'm going to just take the keikis out and plant them somewhere else. Most likely, if the mother infected, all the keikis are infected as well. The keikis sometimes takes up to a month to start showing the symptoms. So definitely, if the mother infected, you want to assume that all the mat is infected. You want to get all of it out. Now, another thing also is you don't want to take that infected mat and say, oh, I'm going to just chop it and use it as a mulch. No, because that is already having the virus and it can be a source of infection. Don't forget that usually banana leaves, they are very juicy. And the aphids, which we're going to talk about how the aphids actually transfer the virus, the aphids will come and suck up on that juice. And when they suck up on an infected plant, they're going to give it to clean the plant at some point. So you want to clean the whole mat, dig out even the corms if you can. And then if you have a burning permit, I would burn the whole thing. If you don't, I would dig deep hole in the soil and bury this plant and put all the soil back on top of it. You don't want it to be a source of infection. You don't bury it. You don't bury it like in a shallow hole, because it will have the way into the soil and they're going to start germinating, and that's all again all infected plants. So you don't want to do that. What you want to do after cutting the plant, you want to also, if you want to speed up the killing of the plants, you want to treat it with Roundup. You want to do 2-inch diameter of banana and then inject 1 ml of Roundup. You inject it with a syringe or something. Why do you do the Roundup? Because you want to kill the corm, not just the stem. You want to kill the corm also. That's why you inject Roundup, to make sure that, because if you have dealt with the banana bunchy top before, you cut the plant, right? And then you are going to see the cake keeps still coming up from that corm. That's why you want to go with Roundup as well, to make sure that the corm is also dead. Now we're going to talk about how is the bunchy top get transferred. Aphids are the insect that actually transfer the virus. So the aphids are the vector that moves the virus from a infected plant into a clean plant. What they do, when they inject their mouth into an infected plant and they start sucking that juice from the plant, the virus will be on their mouth. And then when they are going to move into a clean plant and they start sucking on that clean plant, they are going to give it the virus. The virus, the aphids usually like a protein from the plant juice, because that's what's going to help them to make the eggs, the females. So usually they end up taking way too much of the plant juice to get the amount of protein that they need. Then all the extra sugar, what's going to happen to it is going to be coming out from the other end, coming out of the aphids. And that's where the ants come and love it. They love that extra juice. They feed on the extra juice that's coming out of the aphids. So the ants start working on protecting the aphids. And also they transfer them between a plant to plant. So aphids and ants, they become the source of infection for the bunchy top. If you want to stop the spreading of the bunchy top, you want to control both aphids and ants. Ladybug here is actually a natural enemy for the aphids. They eat the aphids, they feed on them. But then, because the ants are benefiting from the aphids, they kill the ladybug to stop it from killing the aphids. So controlling aphids and controlling ants are very important in controlling the bunchy top. Those are our major two things to consider. This it's not an extensive list. It's more I would say a selective list of chemicals that's organic or synthetic ones approved to control aphids in banana in Hawaii. Now there are way more other products, and myself, and I believe Emily, James, and Roshan, I believe we all don't have any association with any of those companies that they make those chemicals. I'm gonna tell you why I kind of selected those chemicals in my presentation. Look at the active ingredients here. There are different active ingredients. What that helps is the same with the organic and with the synthetic ones. Both of them we selected different active ingredients. And why is that? Is because when you are trying to control any insect, you want to have at least three products, different products, and you spray it on the pest. What that helps is, one is that you hit the insect with always different chemicals, so it doesn't get the chance to develop resistance to it. Second, any chemicals, and as Emily in her presentation was saying, the label is the law. Any chemicals will have maximum either amount or number of applications per the growing season. For banana, the cropping season is a 1 year. So if the label tells you, for example, 4 applications of this product in a growing season, that means 4 applications in a year. So you have every 3 months, one time you can apply that certain product. When you have at least 3, maybe up to 4 or 5 chemicals, you will not be able to reach that maximum application because you are using different chemicals every time. Second, again, as I mentioned earlier, you are hitting that insect or pest with a different chemicals. So it's not going to develop resistance very quickly because you are hitting it with different chemicals. Third, also, you are not adding too much from that one same chemical, and you may cause some pollution because those chemicals, they are going to either be in the air or in the soil. They need time to be broken down. If you keep adding the same chemical, you are keeping that concentration of that chemical in the air or in the soil continue. So it's not going to have time to break down, and that can cause some pollution. And for a sustainable agriculture, we don't want to do that. It's good to have a rotation of different chemicals. Also, you want to look at what's called mode of action. That's what way that chemical will control the pest. Like, for example, by contact. Some others called systemic. Maybe some others in a different way. What that will happen is also the same thing. You will be able to control the insect in a different way, so it's not going to develop resistance to it. Again, rotation of at least 3 products. If you can afford, you may do even more. That will be really good. This way you are going to prevent the insect or a disease from developing resistance very quickly to the application. Now we're going to talk about, and as the question came about the macropropagation, and when Roshan mentioned with taking the keikis, how to prevent that. What we want to do is that we want to move away from the typical banana plantation, the old typical one, which is the old mat, when it gets so dense, dead leaves all around, or maybe on the ground. You don't want to do that anymore. Why is that? One is the cumulative humidity around can be a very good source of infection or thrive of an infection in any mat. Second, when you have this heavy plantation, you will not be able to spot if you have, for example, aphids or any other diseases. It's going to be very confusing. It's hard to see because it's so dense. Third, when you are trying to control a pest with high density planting, no matter how good you are or how good the product is, you will not be able to spray really well and control everything. It's just because the density, the leaves on top of each other and stuff, is going to be very hard to make a very good coverage of the plant. Third or fourth is if the mother, as I was mentioning earlier about the bunchy top, if the mother gets infected, you gotta assume that everything is infected in that mat. So it's a big loss. Instead, we want everybody to move into low density planting. and what that will help us with a lot. Like for example, if you get some new plants, you want to plant them in an area, then they are going to start giving keikis. I want to start immediately taking those keikis and move them into a new area. This way I keep, this is low density. I can see through. I can, if I spot something, when I control, I can control very good because it's a low density. I will be able to hit everything. I will be able to have a nice coverage. Whatever I'm spraying with, the air will be able to go through nicely. So less humidity and issues like this. We moved the keikis here, right? Those now are going to start becoming mothers, and they're going to start giving keikis. I want to move the keikis from here into here as well. And then the keikis from here, they're going to start moving here. At some point, that one plot that I started with, I'm going to eliminate everything. I'm going to take all the plants out. I will plant something else. I will do some, for example, plant cover crop, stuff like this. I want to revitalize the soil itself, add some components to soil health, clear the soil, make sure plow it well, and then the keikis from here at some point, they're gonna start moving here, and then the roundup will continue over and over. This way, I reduce the density. I protected the keikis because you are gonna have bunchy top at some point, but as long as you keep moving the keikis out, you are going to reduce the chance of when the mother is infected, all the keikis are infected because you keep moving them out. Again, in this area, you're going to have low density, easy to spot if you have aphids, easy to control when you do a good spray. You'll be able to hit everything. The air breathes through, that's going to be nice too. And I would say also one more thing is that we don't want to do an application to control only. We want to do the application to prevent. What I mean by that, you're going to have a scheduling of application of chemicals, so you always have a good control. You don't just apply the chemicals when you see the aphids. You want to prevent them. If they will come, they will already die and not establish and cause some issues for you. This is, if you want to just maybe type in this title in a Google search on Google, you will be able to find this article. It has the same information that I just gave you, including the list of chemicals that can be used. It's a HANI extension bulletin article we just published recently. I believe was maybe in January. So you can have the information. And also you can contact me if you would like. I will send you a copy of my presentation as well. Thank you very much for listening, and I'm open for any questions. Thank you.